What's up everyone, welcome back to a new video. So we are at a car park in the middle of nowhere in a forest, and we are going to be doing another mod on the E92 M3, which is going to go under the hood because it's a carbon cold air intake from EVENTURI. So last week's video was a detail of the engine bay, and that was in preparation to install the carbon air intake. If you haven't seen the engine detail video, go watch it. I'll throw it somewhere on the screen and in the description as well. Have a look at that video because it is quite satisfying. The engine bay was absolutely filthy and now it looks brand new again, which it was in preparation to install the carbon air intake that I was super excited to install because I really want to hear the induction sound that the carbon EVENTURI intake will give to this car once you accelerate, downshift, upshift and everything like that. So let's pop the hood. I'll show you what the carbon air intake looks like and we can get to installing the intake on the car. So right here we have the engine bay and the EVENTURI cold air intake to the left there. So before I show you the engine bay and the EVENTURI cold air intake, I'm just going to tell you a quick story because I have this EVENTURI intake for over a year now. Because I was actually supposed to buy a different white E92 M3 with DCT over a year ago. But unfortunately the seller kind of screwed me over and I didn't end up buying that car. But I had that car reserved basically. It was coming from USA, crashed from Copart, and I had it reserved, but the seller decided not to hit me up whenever the car came. I didn't leave any deposit and I wanted to, but I'm happy I didn't because maybe I would have lost my deposit on that E92 M3. But before I was supposed to buy the E92 M3 like over a year ago, this EVENTURI carbon air intake came up for sale used and it was half of the price of a new one. So I decided to pick it up because I wanted to have it for the new E92 M3 that I was supposed to buy back then. But unfortunately that deal didn't work out as I said, and I have had this cold air intake for over a year, lying at home and waiting for me to buy another E92 M3, which finally around 2 months ago the day has come where I bought this black E92 M3 and we can put the EVENTURI intake onto the new M3 that I finally ended up buying. So here's a quick look at what the engine bay looks like now after my quick detail. Check that out in last week's video. It looks nice and clean and ready to install the EVENTURI carbon air intake, which just, in my opinion, looks absolutely beautiful. As you can see, this is where the EVENTURI intake will go once we remove the old air intake. But this intake looks basically brand new, and I'm actually really excited that I bought this air intake back then because it was literally half of the price that a brand new one is, and this one is in basically brand new condition. So I'm finally getting around to install this carbon air intake from EVENTURI on my E92 M3 after the intake has been sitting around on a shelf for the past year and I've just been looking at it and waiting to buy the E92 M3 that I can install this intake on. Finally the day has come and let's get to installing this intake because I can't wait to see what the induction sound is going to be like after I install this intake on the car. First of all, I'm going to get to taking off the old air intake, which is quite simple. There isn't much to do to replace a cold air intake. You need to take this cover out, which is a T25, I believe. You need to take this part out with the old air intake, undo this hose. These two clamps here are actually this one clamp you need to undo, which is just a, I think a 7mm socket or a screwdriver, flathead screwdriver. And then you need to take this part off as well, which is just two bolts on the side here. They are, I believe, T20. So I'm going to grab my tools and I'll get to taking that off. I'll probably do a time lapse of taking these parts off because it's nothing complicated. And then we can get to putting on the new intake on the car. Alright, so I should have all my tools right here. First of all, I believe it's a T25. This air intake definitely looks like it needs to be changed, and I kind of knew that because once I was buying the car, the previous owner told me that it needs a full service I still haven't done the oil and oil filters, but I will be doing that soon. And now we don't have to buy a new air intake because we have EVENTURI cold air intake, so we can just re-clean that filter. Next thing I will do is undo this hose, so we don't have to do that later. Alright, that's off now. Everything looks good. Now we will undo this clamp here and the whole intake should come out, and we can start cleaning the inside here and then putting on the EVENTURI intake. Alright, so before we actually install the air intake in the car, we have to lube the cone up of the filter. Right here I have this air filter oil from K&N. Shout out to my brother for letting me use this one. He has an intake on his car already that is from a different company. I think it's AFE, so I'm keen to see how the difference is going to be between the EVENTURI and the AFE intake. We will probably do a video on that soon as well, so you can hear what the difference is, if there's actually any difference in the induction sound. So anyway, shout out to him for allowing me to use this air intake oil. This one is actually a spray-on intake oil, so it should be easy to use. We're going to cover this cone up with some oil, not too much so it drips down, but enough that it doesn't let any dust or rubbish or anything like that inside to the air intake. So basically it's quite simple. You just have to shake it a bit, and then 3 inches away from the actual intake you have to spray evenly all the way around, making sure everything is nice and oiled up. You will see a difference in the color on the air intake. Because it's red, you will see it easier where it's dry and where it's wet. And then later on, once you go all the way around, you can check that and make sure everything is nice and oiled up. Then you have to give the oil about 20 minutes to settle in and everything like that. Make sure there's nothing dripping from the air intake, and after that you are ready to install the intake onto the car. So I'm going to quickly shake this up a bit and then start spraying the oil on the air intake, and I'll get back to you when I'm finished. So that should be everything. I'm just going to wipe the excess off that is around on the edges. Actually, let's not forget that we have to do the inside of the intake here as well. Right, that should be all lubed up nicely, I guess. Clean off the excess. So I think that's all good. We can give it about 20 minutes and then we can install the intake back on the car. Alright, so now let's get to actually installing this air intake inside. I'm just going to undo one of these clamps as much as I can, so it's easier to put the intake on. Let's hope we don't struggle with putting this intake on, because I think there isn't much space to put it inside here. But let's find out. That actually seems to be looking quite promising. I guess that bracket at the bottom of the air intake is because the intake from the bottom of the bumper goes up to the air filter, and that metal bracket actually protects from dust and rubbish and everything like that to hit the air intake. So I guess that's actually a good thing. I don't know if every air intake has that from other brands, but the EVENTURI intake does, and that is a good thing in my opinion. So as you can see, the EVENTURI intake is in the car now. It's all tight, not going anywhere, looks all good. I'm gonna give the filter another few minutes just to make sure that oil is all good. And then I'm gonna start the car up without this piece on top here, and we can hear what the car sounds like. And then later on I will put this piece back on and we can again see if it makes any difference, because I think that piece that you put on top of the air filter box will actually block out some of the sound. So I want to see the difference. Basically, you can also hear if there's any difference. I wish I could run the air intake like that without this cover on top, but I don't think I want to do that because I don't want any dirt or anything going into the air filter. And then once we finish everything under the hood, we can close the hood, see what it sounds like, do some drive-bys and everything like that from inside the car, outside the car, just see what this EVENTURI intake actually sounds like, because I'm really excited to hear what it sounds like. I've been watching so many YouTube videos on what it sounds like the past couple of weeks, months and whatever, since I bought the air intake. So whenever I bought the EVENTURI cold air intake, I also got this carbon piece that goes into the air duct on the left side of the bumper. I think that is a really nice touch for the carbon air intake, that you can see inside the bumper you have like a carbon air duct. You can also see the EVENTURI logo here, so I guess if someone is walking past the car and sees that inside the bumper, they probably know that you have an EVENTURI intake on the car, so that is a nice small touch from EVENTURI. So today I will not be installing this piece inside the air duct because I need to paint my front bumper. Both fenders need to be changed. That will be within probably the next 1 to 2 months. So whenever I paint the front end, the bumper and both fenders, I replace that. I actually want to modify the headlights as well, because you can probably see this headlight has some condensation inside. I want to take it apart and do a few mods inside the headlights before I put the bumper and the fenders back on after they are painted. So once I finish all that, within like probably 1 to 2 months, I will install this air duct from EVENTURI inside the bumper here, and that will look amazing. All right, so the EVENTURI intake is on. The car has been started for a couple of minutes. I'm gonna go inside, give it a quick rev and get my first reaction. So when I was recording the clips before, I didn't have the M button on the steering wheel pressed, which I guess the car is a bit softer. The throttle actuators actually don't open fully, I think, or something like that. Now I'm gonna press the M button and make sure that the car is alive and we have good throttle response and everything like that. So I'm quickly gonna give it a small rev and I will get my first reaction. Let's give it about 3000 revs. The car did warm up already, so let's see what it's like. Oh shit. That actually sounds so good. I actually can't believe how much that changed. It's probably because obviously the filter is a sports filter and we have carbon fiber, which is obviously gonna be better for sound than plastic. So that actually sounds so good, just giving it about 3,000–4,000 revs. It's just such a big difference, and I'm really happy I put this intake on, because it's gonna actually change the car so much when it drives. I don't know, it just sounds so good, basically, put it that way. Now we are not finished with the video because I need to install the airbox cover after I get a few revs for the after clips. And then I think I'm gonna drive home, have some food because I'm starving. I haven't had any food in a couple of hours. So I'm gonna get some food and then I'll probably go back out and film some after clips. I might not do that today because it is actually getting dark a small bit and I want to get good footage for you so you can get some inside angles, outside angles, flybys and everything like that. So I might try get my brother to help me out with that. So it's a few days later. Of course, I forgot to film the outro when I was doing the after clips with the EVENTURI intake, but I got to drive around with the intake for a bit, and I can tell you it definitely sounds a lot better than the stock intake in my opinion. I will be doing a POV drive with some intake sound, probably the next video next Sunday. So stay tuned for that, because I can confirm that the audio from that video is going to be really nice, because it actually sounds like a race car with the microphone under the hood with the EVENTURI intake. So that's going to be coming out next Sunday most likely. I wanted to put on the carbon air intake from EVENTURI before I did anything to the exhaust, because now I've driven it for a bit and I heard the noises that the intake gives a lot more because the exhaust is stock. But I've driven it a bit and it's time to move on. It's time to play around with the exhaust. So probably this week or next week I will be removing the rear muffler from the exhaust and modifying the rear muffler. It's a common mod on the E92 M3, and I'm going to be opening the muffler up and welding straight pipes inside, basically making a full straight pipe in the back muffler. I know someone has been in the muffler before, because I've seen some welds that are definitely not from factory. So I want to take the muffler apart, have a look what it looks like inside. I have a feeling someone cut the muffler apart before and they just cut out the perforated pipes and that's it, because my brother has actually done the rear muffler mod before and I helped him do it, and his one sounds a lot better than this one. So I really want to cut the muffler apart again and see what it looks like inside, and do the actual mod where you just straight pipe the muffler, because that actually makes the car sound so much better. So I will be doing that this week or next week. Now, if you have watched some of my previous videos, you probably already know I have a full titanium exhaust on the way for the E92 M3. So that is on the way, that's coming. I will be installing it probably, hopefully soon, whenever it arrives and I do other things to the M3. But for now, when I'm waiting for the titanium exhaust, I want some more noise out of the E92 M3, because it doesn't really sound that good stock. And I know when I do the rear muffler mod, it's actually going to unlock the car and it's going to sound so much better. So if you're interested in seeing how I modified the rear muffler on the M3, make sure to subscribe, because I will be uploading that video soon. So if that's a video you're interested in, me modifying the E92 M3 rear muffler, I will be uploading the video soon, so make sure you stay around. That's probably going to be the end of this video. I hope you liked the install and the sound that the EVENTURI intake gives to the M3. Thanks for watching this video. If you're interested in more of my videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Also hit the bell notifications beside the subscribe button so you are notified whenever I upload the next video. Like the video and also comment below what you think of the carbon EVENTURI intake. Was it worth buying, and does it sound better than the stock intake? Once again, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video.